It's all here. News, weather, traffic, and community events. Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070.
You know who else is full of surprises? Well, I don't know. Maybe he's not. But anyways, I'm happy he's here. Matthew Guy is an automotive writer with publications like Driver, covering, well, cars and the automotive industry. And he's joining us on the line right now. Sir, how you doing?
Good. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. So you and I have spoken a few times over the last little while, ever since the Canadian government opened the door to more Chinese electric vehicles. It's not a huge number, but we're allowing some of them in without the giant tariffs that we used to have. And that has led to the question all along, well, which ones are coming? And we're starting to get a sense of that, is my understanding. And you've been covering that a bit. So I wanted to talk to you about what EVs we're seeing from China here.
Absolutely. And there are some of the familiar players, which some of the listeners might be familiar. Tesla, for example, is starting to bring in some Model Y models and some Model 3 models from China instead of bringing them up from the States. And that has reduced the price of that one, of the Model 3, to under $40,000, which is a huge cut from what it was just a few months ago. So those are on their way already. We know those are coming. And Lotus as well, playing in a different price segment for sure. Those are six-figure vehicles, but the Lotus Elitra is on the ground here, and that is a Chinese-built EV as well.
And that's a luxury brand that I guess wasn't always built in China, but they are being built now there. These EVs, at least.
Yes.
Because they were,
that's right.
They're British, like the original ones, like the ones you'd see in James Bond. Those were a British brand back in the day, right?
They sure were. That was something that that's the name's got a lot of history with it.
Yeah,
for sure. Lotus does.
Well, the new version of fancy Lotuses that'll cost you a lot of money are coming in from China. So are those the first ones we're going to see here?
Yes, I would say those would be the very first ones. There are some on the ground in some parts of the country, and some of my colleagues have been test driving them. So they are here, and they are available, from what I understand, which is pretty cool.
Now, one of the things,
it's a pretty big development.
One of the things you mentioned back when we spoke before was that one of the things we might see is not necessarily new car brands we've never heard of before entering the Canadian market, at least not right away. It could just be existing car brands, like you just said, Tesla, that happen to already make vehicles in China, now have the ability to bring those ones in from China and not face those tariffs. And so I guess that's sort of what we've seen here with the Teslas. And is that kind of what we're expecting to see, or are we going to see brands we've never heard of before show up on our doorstep?
We are going to see brands, I feel, that we've never heard of before.
Okay.
And right now, just because the Tesla and those types of brands already have the systems in place to sell cars here in Canada, they were able to get up and going pretty quickly, right? And if anyone, for our listeners, if anyone is looking at the vehicles, looking at the Tesla, for example, just look at the VIN. Each car has its own unique VIN, right? Its own unique number. And if it starts with an L, with the letter L, that means it was made in China. So that's a quick way to figure out where the car came from.
Oh, cool.
But with the new brands that we feel are going to come to Canada, BYD is someone that has been floated a lot, and there's another one called Geely, and Geely is a big company. If you think about some brands might have a bunch of different brands, like Ford might have Ford and Lincoln as a luxury brand, right? So Zeekr is Geely's luxury brand. Galaxy is Geely's entry-level brand. And one of the ones that one of my colleagues saw over in China just back in May at the Beijing Auto Show was called the Galaxy Geome. And that one is small. It's a little bit longer than the Hyundai Venue. If you think about Hyundai's smallest crossover, just as a yardstick for you, just to put it in your mind of how big this vehicle is. And that one has a selling price over in China of about $13,000 Canadian. Now, we don't expect that price to directly translate over here. Right? Because it does cost money to get these things over here and to get things set up, but even double that will be a seismic event.
Well,
right?
that's what I was.
Automotive landscape.
You're kind of getting to what I was hoping to ask is, when do we see the cheap ones? Because I think a lot of Canadians, you hear about cheap Chinese EVs in other parts of the world, and you're like, well, I'd love to buy a $13,000 electric vehicle because the EVs are kind of expensive, and I think that's one of the big barriers to a lot of Canadians exploring these things. But so this might be coming down the pike here, one of those first entries into the cheap Chinese EVs coming. The Geely, you said.
Yes, and so that one was the Geely is the overarching brand, and that little sub brand is called Galaxy. And BYD also has numerous. My colleague Andrew was looking at the BYD Sea Lion 05, and that one's priced at about $13,000 American, so 20 grand Canadian-ish. And that one's much bigger. You know, that one is more of a still a compact SUV, but a little bit bigger than the one that we just talked about, and all kinds of technology in them. You know, I mean, range. Range is certainly on everyone's mind. So we would want to see, because things that are rated in different parts of the world don't always translate over here into Canada. Some of our ratings are a lot more realistic here in Canada from what you see on the sticker in some other parts of the world. But,
Matthew, I know you're probably scrambling to test drive a lot of these, and you don't necessarily want to give a review before the movie comes out, to be fair, but there's my analogy. What do you say? What do you say is going to be something that the Canadian public's going to glom onto? What's a good buy for us?
Well, I think that these companies are going to bring in some of these more affordable ones as the calendar year goes on, because it would be a bad look if they brought in, really expensive ones and they sat around for a long time, right? I mean, people might think, okay, what's up with these? Can I get into this with any sort of level of confidence? And that's, conversations that we were having decades ago when Japanese cars first came and when Korean cars first came. And those are, we know these now, and people in Canada buy them every day. So it's a different conversation about cars coming from a different part of the world, but there's a lot of parallels there. And one thing that was very interesting that my colleague, when he was over in Beijing, there was one company called Leap Motor, and they had a Tim Hortons pop-up shop at their stand. I kid you not. And if there's one way into a Canadian's heart, it's with a double-double and a Timbit, right?
So they're doing their market research. I got you. Hey, Matthew, Guy.
Yeah, for real.
So we're talking EVs, Chinese EVs. We're learning about the first ones that are coming. Some of the more affordable ones from BYD and this overarching brand called Geely, the sub-brand called Galaxy. Maybe those are ones we're going to start seeing. I've only got like 30 seconds. Can I rapid fire some questions at you from listeners?
Give it a shot.
Okay. Texture says, the MG Cyberster, is that coming to Canada? Have you heard about that?
Oh, I have heard about that. I can't say with certainty it's coming to Canada, but it does. That is a funky looking car. And you talk about British brands, and you talk about brands with a lot of heritage. MG is one of them.
Okay, interesting. This texture says, is wondering if Canada regulated the price. Did Canada set like a low ceiling or floor for these prices at all?
It's interesting because they didn't put from what I understand, there's no specific floor, but there is a codicil in there that says, some of these $49,000 should be quote unquote affordable. So we'll see. I know that the government is going to reevaluate 6 months into this after 27,500 of the 49,000 cars have come in. And I expect to see some sort of pricing when they make that reevaluation later this year.
Okay, but Canada hasn't been like $35,000 is the lowest price you can charge or something like that. There's nothing like that?
Yeah. Not to my knowledge,
okay.
No.
And then real quick, last question at 7:10:10. Can he talk about dealer networks is simply the question. I guess, will there be like BYD dealer networks that show up, or how does that work?
To my knowledge, yes. I know that in the Ontario market, there have been lots of advertisements for hiring people, both in management positions and in things of that nature. So they definitely have designs on putting in the dealer network.
Okay, thank you for bearing with me with the rapid-fire questions, and thanks to our listeners for weighing in. Yeah. Okay, Matthew, Guy,
absolutely.
Let's do this again soon. I love talking cars with you. I'd love to chat again soon.
It's great talking with you guys as well. Thank you for having me on.
And read more of his stories on these kind of things. A driver on the web is one of the publications you can catch Matthew's work.